Okay, Friday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the west coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is, yes, Angle of Repose Friday. This is the day that you should be, well, jauntily angled upon your barca lounger reading Wallace Stegner's Angle of Repose.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Wink, how are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. It is, what is it, 46? But it's going up to like 54 later today, so it's going to get over 50 anyway. Mind to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And to the leftish of the chat room link are the contribute donate buttons, and thank you for your generosity on helping us keep Resistance Radio beaming 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
Also, podcasts for the after show can be had by way of Spreaker, and that's the raw data file. Wink will put that up shortly after the show is done, and then the perfected daily file will come later. That's the PDF, and that will be by way of Spreaker. Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn,
Podbean. Yep.
Podbean.
Yep.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Beginning a little bit of concern that folks have gone to applications like even our own homepage.
Yeah.
Haven't been.
I don't know what's going on. I've heard that too. That some of the players aren't working or whatever. But every time I check them, they seem to work. So I don't know. It could be a browser thing or something. I don't know.
So I would suggest maybe refresh your browser.
Yeah, something like that.
And we'll ask the rest of the crew about what they think needs to be done or who we might need to contact to make sure that these players are working. So if you're listening now, then it's not an issue, but we'll figure that out. And thank you for keeping us apprised of that.
Heck yeah.
And I also apologize for not noticing True Blue Majority's message on the show notes from a couple of days ago. I don't know how I missed that, but I do check them.
Yep.
And even if it's a day or so after the fact. Okay, here along the banks of the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 40 degrees. We are slated to go to 82. A little bit warmer than yesterday. No percent chance of precipitation. Air quality index is good at 25 parts per million. Pressure is holding steady at 30.07 inches. Visibility at 8 miles. Humidity is 79%. So, it's fall for us. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Weather from around the world is brought to you by People's Weather Stations that they have purchased, and these people live around the world. All right. London is 59 degrees with scattered clouds. Paris is 59 degrees and clear. Rome is 65, mostly cloudy. Kiev is 49, mostly cloudy. Kabul is 68 and clear. Hong Kong is 77 and clear. Tokyo is 58 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 65 and partly cloudy. San Francisco is 59 and clear. And New York is 56 degrees Fahrenheit and clear. That is weather from around the world brought to you by People's Weather Stations that they purchased and they live around the world. Okay. Well, I'm still suffering this summer cold in the fall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's been somewhat of a drag. Because I've been dragging.
I tell you.
I mean, I have so much to do, but this is, kind of knocked me on my rear. So I apologize for the sniffles and whatnot. So bear with me. I'm trying to work around it. I still have my voice. I thought I was going to lose my voice, but see how it is over the weekend. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Sebastian Gorka says that Hillary Clinton is a traitor, and just like the Rosenberg, she should get the chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, normally when you make a threat against a person like Hillary Clinton's life, the Secret Service is checking you out.
Yep.
Usually.
Yep.
So I don't know what this means. But if anybody needs the chair, I'm just saying, Gorka has a major issue on projection there. Because he is a Nazi. All right? And let's be clear about that. And how dare this Nazi go on our airwaves and call for the execution of the leader of the opposition party? How dare he? If you criticize Trump for being a dick to a war widow, you get death threats. This guy has a gig. He gets paid to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it should stop. So there's that going on. Let's see. Trump came up with his grand plan to attend to the opioid crisis, and that is just say no. Now I'm trying to figure out, who do you say no to? The doctor prescribing you this stuff?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Sessions says the opioid crisis is because of pot. I'm like, that's quite a stretch there, Keebler elf. Quite a stretch. And then, Trump goes up there and talks about his brother Fred, who was an alcoholic, and that's why he doesn't drink. Yeah, he doesn't drink. There is countless photos of this guy drinking champagne and drinking wine. Look at his puffy face. Give me a break.
Yeah. Now,
that doesn't mean that he's an alcoholic, but
No.
he referenced his brother Fred, who did die of alcoholism. Now let's remember, this is the same brother that he cut off his grandson off of Trump cut his brother Fred's grandson off of the family health plan. Who the kid has like MS and
Right.
other issues because as Trump said, it's not personal, it's business.
Right.
Now, of course, we've got this big issue about Uranium One. Hillary Clinton was selling the Russians nuclear material, visible material, and that was all her. Well, if such an issue, I take Armando's tact. Why doesn't Trump just bring that uranium back? Oh, you know what? It never leaves the United States. Isn't that weird? And it was a Canadian company. And the person who donated the millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation was not head of that company when the deal was going through. And 9 other agencies had to sign off on the thing, and Hillary Clinton in the State Department was just one of the 9. But, I talked to Trump supporters, and they have no idea where Niger and Chad is. Do you think they know the nuances of this Uranium One deal outside of what Fox tells them? Well, the reason they are doing this all-out offensive is because, excuse my French, but the shit is about to hit the fan.
Yeah.
They only do this when major stuff is coming down the pipeline, and Mueller might be putting some people into jail sooner rather than later. And we can only hope. Okay, these are the issues that we will be dealing with today, and they are. There's some sort of road work out there. I don't know what they're doing. Scraping and blowing stuff off. I don't know. But if you hear machinery in the background, it's because there's machinery in the background.
Yeah.
All right. The issues for today are a 56-year-old Brea, California resident drove his car into a group of protesters outside of Republican Ed Royce's office in the Orange County town. We're talking MAGA country, by the way. Up where I used to live, as a matter of fact. I grew up in that area, North Orange County. And when my son was a mere toddler, we lived right around the corner from Birch and Brea Boulevard where this attack took place. Crazy. The media is reluctant to cover neo-Nazi violence. I don't know why, but they are. And as Trump purposely missed the Russia sanctions deadline, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson disbands the office that oversees Russia sanctions. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Well, it is Friday, and on Friday we have the Friday News Dump and Recycling Center that composes the last half. News that has been repurposed with a purpose. Wink, Americans are spending six times more on Halloween candy and costumes than is spent to feed the poor. Because priorities.
Yeah.
And 2 American women are rescued 900 miles southeast of Japan after drifting for 5 months at sea.
Wow.
I always like these sea rescue stories. I used to, as a boy, I would go to the library. Remember libraries? We used to have libraries back in the day.
I do.
Used to go to the library. Oh, for those of you who don't know what a library is, it's this building that the community funded, and it had all these books.
Yep.
And you could go in there and you could check them out and take them home and bring them back and get another one.
Yep.
Or you could just stay in there and study and read the papers from all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I used to love going to the library and reading about these sea rescue stories. Well, all that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar, and even more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast. His name is Wink, and my name is Justice, and I'm back over here on the West Coast. And we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular specific and ever peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time because, well, who loves you, baby? Okay, exactly. That Whitefish Energy Company, that 2-man shop in Whitefish, Montana, got the contract to rebuild Puerto Rico's electric grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on out there, so we all got to keep up, all right? It's not hard.
Man, I'm telling you, yeah.
It really isn't. I mean, first of all, you have to stop watching Fox.
Yeah.
And maybe look at some headlines.
There you go.
Even in the newspaper dispensary, just read those headlines. You'll get more information from that than listening to Fox.
Exactly.
Right? So let's be clear about what's going on here. This was a no-bid contract, Wink. Right. 2-man shop in Whitefish, Montana, the hometown of Ryan Zinke, the Interior Department Secretary. Coincidentally, also the hometown of Richard Spencer, the alt-right dapper neo-Nazi. Interesting, huh? Kind of makes you wonder what's in the water at Whitefish, Montana. Well, they have this no-bid contract, and the contract was actually leaked. And there is a stipulation in there that, give us the $300 million, and you can't question us why we spend the money the way we do, whether we finish the job. No lawsuits against us.
Right.
It's just insane. A no-bid contract. Then, of course, right-wingers are out there saying, well, if, people want it, this is how the bidding process is. If you say how much you're going to spend and all that, other people will know that and then undercut your bid. And, of course, the retort to that was, there were no other bids. It was a no-bid contract. Pardon me. So, it stinks. Let's be clear. That stinks. Whoever was the Whitefish social media person threatened Puerto Rico for asking, how did you guys get this? It's for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And forbids any government audit or review their contract, the no-bid contract. Well, can you imagine if something like that happened in the Obama administration? They would have impeached him. Jeez, I don't know what to do. Oh, FEMA had a plan. FEMA had a plan. You there?
Yeah.
Okay. FEMA had a plan for responding to the hurricane in Puerto Rico, but they don't want you to see it. Now, if you go to the website, the one for Hawaii is still up there. And they said, well, we had to take it down because there was some sensitive material there that, might affect national security. Which I think means that they actually had a plan because in the Hawaii plan, they're down to how many people per ship should be there. and a 10-point plan an 18-point plan on how to restore the electric grid. So I guess the sensitive material is that they had a plan. And when Trump said, wait a second, brown people? We're terraforming that island. I guess they don't want us to know that they're terraforming the island, even though they're terraforming the island.
Right.
Yep. But looks like about 90% of Republican voters think that Trump is the hardest working president since World War II. Harder working than World War II war hero President Eisenhower. Definitely harder working than that black guy who just golfed all the time. And when he wasn't golfing, he was conspiring with black nationalists to kill all the white people. Yep, this is the country we live in. Kind of makes you wonder. Makes you wonder big time. Okay, Brea. For the longest time, it was actually known as Brea Olinda. Brea-Olinda. Affectionately known to residents of North Orange County as BO. Because I got to tell you, it stinks because there's some major oil fields around Brea. Just letting you know. And yes, when I was in exploration and production for Gulf Oil, that was my region. There were some leases in Brea that I had to go up and maintain and keep track of. Okay, this is by Pritha Paul out of the International Business Times. A car drove into a group of people who were protesting Trump's immigration policy outside Congressman Ed Royce's office in Brea, California yesterday. The incident was captured on video at about 12:30 p.m. local time. That would be 3:30 p.m. on the East Coast, just so people know. When police were in the process of trying to clear the intersection where hundreds of protesters were marching in a circle. The protesters were trying to get their message, what losing their immigration status would mean for them, across to Royce. That is when a blue sedan began pushing through the assembled protesters, driving at a low speed. A few of the people tried to stop the car, and one protester even perched himself on the hood, after which the car started going faster. As soon as the car sped up, many protesters were heard screaming at the driver. Well, he was stopped by police a short while later in the middle of the intersection, and one of the officers approached the vehicle and hit it with a nightstick. I don't know. Will the people that jumped on the car to try to get the guy to stop, will they be charged with a crime? Even though the cop had to hit this guy's car with a nightstick? We'll see. I know how Orange County works. Well, there have been no confirmed reports of injuries occurred due to the incident so far, although David Huerta, president of SEIU, United Service Workers West Labor Union, said several of his members went to the hospital. Daniel Wenzek, the driver of the blue sedan and a 56-year-old Brea resident, was arrested on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon, and he was released pending further investigation. Must be white. Because how many times have we heard black people held in jail without even charged with a crime until they can figure out what's going on? Just saying. Claudia Aguilera, 46, the protester who jumped onto the hood of the vehicle for a few seconds, shared her experience of the incident. My only thought is that I just wanted him to stop, she said by phone. I'm like, if I just jump on the car, he's going to stop. Well, he did stop, thank God, because if he didn't, he would have run over a lot of people that were crossing the street. It was so quick. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't, this article doesn't really go into depth. The LA Times article does, and as well as Orange County Weekly. The protesters were following police instructions and were merely crossing the street when this guy drove through the intersection, albeit at a low speed, but still speeding up when, Okay, Well, Royce's spokesman, Steve Smith, said that the congressman condemns in the strongest possible terms any and all violence and that his staff remain committed to meeting with all constituents who wish to voice their opinions in a civil and respectful manner. Meaning, don't disagree with us. If you disagree with us, that's not being very civil or respectful. So I guess we'll just have to drive our car through your disrespect. Well, we'll see. We will see. All right. I don't know why they're reluctant to cover neo-Nazis. Oh, I know why. Because there's some fine people on that side wing. Very fine. Amanda Marcotte from Salon. It's been just a little over 2 months since a white supremacist rammed his car into a crowd of anti-fascist protesters and killed a woman in Charlottesville, Virginia. It seems as if the mainstream media has already gotten bored with the story of neo-Nazi violence and domestic terrorism. Well, I guess so. We still don't know anything about this guy that shot up Las Vegas. I don't know. Seems odd to me, but I'm a romantic. Let's see. Leading white nationalist Richard Spencer snagged a huge amount of coverage for scheduling a speech at the University of Florida, which provoked stories about how much the school was spending on security. Yeah, $500,000 for security. And 3 neo-Nazis still shot at protesters. $500,000 for security, and neo-Nazis still had guns and they shot at protesters. Did you hear about that? No, I know. I'm not blaming you for not being able to find it. It's just not being reported that widely.
Yeah.
Let's see. The potential for protests and the fact that the state's Republican governor compelled to declare a state of emergency, with Spencer bringing his neo-Nazis there. Just a little thing. But when 3 of Spencer's biggest fans and core followers, their names are Tyler Tenbrink, William Fears, and Colton Fears, the latter 2 are brothers, were arrested for attempting to murder protesters, well, coverage of the event was relatively sparse. Media Matters analyzed the news coverage of the incident in which one neo-Nazi allegedly fired a gun while the other 2 egged him on to shoot protesters. I hate it when they say alleged, when there's video of him actually shooting and his accomplices egging him on. I know we're supposed to be journalists and all that, but I think we're past the point of alleged here. All right, let's be clear. The watchdog group found that cable news networks almost completely ignored it. CNN and Fox News didn't mention the attack at all, and MSNBC devoted a 2-minute segment to it on one show. Angela Curacao, the president of Media Matters, told Salon he didn't believe, pardon me, the incident necessarily deserved hours of coverage over a few days, but the paltry coverage the alleged attack got, he worries, may contribute to the public's failure to understand how serious the threat of neo-Nazi violence really is. Vicious attacks on anti-fascist protesters have happened in at least 2 occasions since the events in Charlottesville. In an early September rally in Vancouver, Washington, there were reports of threatening behavior from motorists, with one man driving into a crowd, unfortunately injuring no one, and a group of men in another car throwing things and driving menacingly around the protesters. Then there was the latest shooting associated with the Spencer event in Florida. Just because no one's gotten hurt doesn't mean that this isn't news. It's sheer luck that separates a bullet that hits someone in the head from one that doesn't. More importantly, Americans need to see the pattern of violent behavior coming from the white supremacist subculture to understand the threat it actually poses. And this is the argument I get with people who think, well, they have their own rights too, don't they? I guess they do. Incidents like these really underscore the risk a lot of people talked about when it comes to these rallies and about what these groups actually bring when they hold these events. Keegan Hanks, a researcher for the Southern Poverty Law Center, told Salon. Hanks emphasized that white supremacy is an inherently violent ideology, noting that you don't have the ethno-state, you don't have this kind of world that they're dreaming of without extreme violence. Now, I need to actually go and find the other article because there's been some reportage that this was just spontaneous. But a memo has been unearthed in which various of these neo-Nazi groups were coordinating with Spencer's group to basically come out and be brown shirt shock troops to trigger the opposition. Hopefully, egg them on into a fight and then blame the anti-fascists.
Right.
Sort of like, I guess, blaming Hillary for funding a Oppo research showing Trump colluding with the Russians is proof that Hillary was colluding with the Russians.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm serious. That is their argument.
Yeah.
So, when anything happens that you're accused of, you blame your opponent for it. We're not the Nazis. They are.
Right.
Very typical. Very typical. All right. David Waldman did go over this story briefly towards the end of his show. And this isn't a very in-depth article, but I think that we should still, go over it anyway, because it's interesting to me. Now, let's remember, recently, the Congress and the Senate, in veto-proof majorities, in the House, 3 people voted against the sanctions, and in the Senate, 1 did. Veto-proof, okay? Oppose sanctions on Russia for interfering in our election. And Trump missed the deadline. It's going on 3 weeks. Why? Well, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson decided to just eliminate the office that coordinates the sanctions against Russia. Huh. All right, this is Travis Getty's got a raw story. Former diplomats and congressional sources said Tillerson had eliminated the office of the coordinator for sanctions policy as part of a State Department overhaul. And that was reported in Foreign Policy magazine. The coordinator's duties will now be overseen by the Policy Planning Office, which had not previously controlled programs or initiatives within the State Department. I got to tell you, deconstructing the administrative state is just a nice way of saying F America. Our State Department is being dismantled weak in the midst of an attack by a foreign entity. But it's Hillary that's in collusion with them. As far as I know, she didn't win the election. I mean, that would be some collusion with the Russians if she actually did win the election and she's just putting Trump in there to, I don't know, mess things up.
Yeah.
I have no idea how these people think. All I know is they don't.
Yeah.
Clinton, a Secretary of State in the Obama administration, set up the office to coordinate sanctions with the Treasury Department across both cabinet agencies. Lawmakers criticized the Trump administration Wednesday for missing an October 1 deadline to implement new sanctions imposed by Congress against Russia for election interference. The delay calls into question the Trump administration's commitment to the sanctions bill, according to John McCain and Ben Cardin. However, Bob Corker, who has publicly feuded with Donald Trump all month, said Thursday that, the White House was working with the State Department to identify which Russia intelligence and defense agencies should face sanctions. I don't know. Maybe you should do with the GRU, the FSB, anything else in the Kremlin. Why did you start there? Jeez. Okay, well, sounds like a plan to me. Let's go ahead and get to our Jim Hightower break now, and we'll come back and then go through the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar and then finish up with the Friday News Dump and Recycling Center. You are listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Week of Justice, and we will be right back.
Good news, people. At last, congressional Democrats have gotten a clue, grown some spine, and are beginning to act like Democrats. In particular, a majority of Dems in the U.S. House are responding to the rising public demand that decent health care be treated as a right for everyone, rather than being rationed by profiteering insurance conglomerates. Nearly 6 of 10 in the House have now signed on to Representative John Conyers' Medicare for All bill, which is being carried in the Senate by Bernie Sanders. So, hallelujah, progress. Yes, but there are many speed bumps to overcome before the Democratic Party gets onto the moral high road of politics. Representative Nancy Pelosi, for one. When the leader of House Democrats was asked if the party should make health care for all a major issue in Congress and in the 2018 elections, she replied with a flat no. Basically, Pelosi says the American people aren't ready for it, by which she really means that the narrow slice of the public that inhabits her world, health industry executives, lobbyists, and campaign donors, aren't ready. Meanwhile, a good 60% of regular Americans are damn sure ready, telling pollsters that our government has a responsibility to ensure that everyone gets the care they need. Let's be blunt. When it comes to the fiery leadership that America's grassroots people want and need, the Democratic Party establishment is weaker than Canadian hot sauce. When you've got 60% of your party's rank-and-file congressional members ready to go, and 60% of the public is also ready to go, it's time to go. The National Party's leadership must get going on health care for all, or the leadership itself must go. This is Jim Hightower saying, to help push both the party and the health care for all issue forward, go to nationalnursesunited.org.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
There.
practically at 0.
Yeah, there you go.
And we should have some sort of bouncing here after. Okay, there we go. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, I'll just repeat that, folks. Thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Lincoln Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio on the Spy Extension, the After Show to span the globe, the solar system, and beyond. Okay. God, I hate having a cold. Whee!
Yeah.
Okay, today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar is facilitated, as it is every Friday, by Smiley Creek. And she opens up the diary with, what does the shape of your nose mean? And there are various descriptions of various noses. And each of those have a, through time, they're supposed to mean something about our personality and what. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, there's different kinds of nose, like the Greek nose, the Roman nose, the turned-up nose, the snub-nosed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, now there are some people who believe that you're like the bigger your nose, the bigger your, you are, like down there, if you happen to be a guy. Which actually brings to mind some news that came over the transom this morning, is that international condom makers are downsizing American condoms because the average condom is too big.
Yeah.
For American. I'm like, yikes.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is. I mean, I thought we were supposed to have the big ones.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
What the hell happened here?
I don't know. But that's interesting. So, America first. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of nose I have. I guess maybe a Roman nose of sorts. Yeah, I guess it would be called a Roman nose. So, yeah, I don't have the octaves. I got the Roman nose. But it's actually a little bit more, I think the term would be aquiline. It's not broad. But I've had my nose broken so many times, it's hard, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of nose do I have? A broken nose. Smashed.
Anytime you play football, you're going to get the broken nose.
Oh, man, you know it. I mean, every practice, and since I was a big hitter, I'm putting my face right into the person's, you put your face, that's how you're taught to tackle. You put your face mask into, the body of your opponent and you tackle them. But that also causes your helmet to jostle around. And a lot of times it comes down and the brim of it hits you right on the bridge of your nose. So I would have a constant scab right on the bridge of my nose from it getting broken there all the time. And I did attempt to put on boxing gloves and, box. So you get your nose broken a few times that way, too.
Yep.
But in spite of it, it's not smashed up against my face, but it's still a broken nose. All right, events currently scheduled. New England Cossacks will be meeting up on November 4th in Kittery, Maine. That is right on the border with New Hampshire at the Farm Bar and Grill at high noon. NHawks42 has a post with more details and RSVP nhawks42@gmail.com if you'd like to RSVP. San Francisco Cossacks are going to welcome T. Burchard to the Bay Area, also on November 4th, but at 6:30 p.m. at the Velvet Cantina, 3349 23rd Street in the Mission, on 23rd and Bartlett between Mission and Valencia, near the 24th Street Mission BART. So that's cool. And Seattle and Puget Sound Cossacks have tentatively scheduled their next meeting for noon, Saturday, January 20th. So Cosmail Eagle of Freedom to RSVP for that. And that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast Community Calendar for the 27th of October of 2017. I guess it's Halloween weekend.
Yeah, coming up.
I guess.
Yep.
Like I said yesterday, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's going to be next weekend is not Halloween weekend. Or maybe people are not even going to consider the weekends to be the Halloween weekend, and they're just going to come out on the day of.
Right.
Boy, I really apologize. Yeah. Oh, boy. Excuse me just a moment.
Mostly here it's the day of, but we always went out the day before and the day of. So, you know, we made it a 2-day event back in the day. But,
well,
kids today, usually just one day. That's it.
My experience is that if there's 3 opportunities to go out and beg for candy, it's gonna be utilized.
There you go.
We'll see. Oh boy, I guess I have a weekend to recuperate. Except I thought all 3 of my grandkids were coming this weekend, but only my 17-year-old grandson's coming, which is fine. But I have to figure out how I need to get well, Wake.
Yeah. Yep.
Back in the day when I got a cold, I'd be done with it for like after 2 days.
Right.
But this is it's been going on since Monday.
Yeah, you might have got bit by the flu or something. I don't know.
I'm wondering too, because I did have that little feeling in my knees, where you're kind of weak and everything, and that's usually indicative of the flu rather than a cold.
Yep.
But I've got the throat thing going. I've got the postnasal drip going.
Yeah.
I actually broke down and took an aspirin today because my head was just massive headache.
Right.
So it could be the flu. I hope not. Well, fortunately, Mom got her flu shot.
Oh, there you go.
So I don't know. Do I need a flu shot now if I have the flu? Wouldn't it make
I don't think it's going to help any, at this point. But
I was going to say, I think getting the flu means that you're inoculated now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
coming up.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I saved $60 then.
Exactly right. Because last year I got the flu shot and I got the flu. So.
Well, you will, and some people will, get it because what you're doing is you're building antibodies.
Right. Exactly right. Yep.
And that was the thing I wanted to plan for, is that if I go get a shot, I need to have 2 or 3 days to recuperate if I do get hit.
Right.
So.
Right.
But I'm thinking
do it on a Friday or so.
I'm going to have to ask my doctor, hey, if I got the flu, am I inoculated now?
Yeah.
And he'll say, yeah, for that strain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because this year I got the shot and I didn't get nothing. No effects whatsoever. So that's pretty good, I guess. So I think the first time you get the flu shot is you're going to be bit by it, but after that you're probably pretty good.
Yeah, I think also I had I kind of went against my my norm and got a lot less sleep than I would normally get last week.
Yeah.
And I think that had something to do with it.
That's probably it too. Yep.
Because I was really cutting into my rest. And then going out and doing actual physical work, For an old guy, this physical work is getting to be a drag, man.
It is.
And if it wasn't one of these, if I wasn't like inflicted by this idea that if I want the job done right, I got to do it myself.
Oh yeah.
I wish I could, go do the job and I'll fire you if you don't do it right. Mostly I can't wait for people, to say, well, yeah, I can do this for X amount of dollars. And I think, okay, I guess I would probably bid at that point. But then they tell you, but I can't get to you till February. What? The work I need to have done needs to be done, by November.
Right.
So then I end up doing it myself because, what are you going to do? Here's another one. My mom has decided to put down, the carpet is a bit of an issue here, and it can, be an issue in terms of allergies and whatnot. And so since she does have her CPOD, those are considerations. But we have a, not a pergola or a pergo floor, but something like that, composite wood product. But get this, Wink. They don't put any underlayment down. And I'm like, what? So, oh, no, you're responsible for that. And I go, well, if you rip up the rug, there might be places that, you need, how much is the underlayment? Of course, it's through Home Depot, right? Now, I've laid floors a lot in my life. It's one of the reasons why I had to step away from the construction business is because my knees got so shot. My doctor said, stop laying floors. Stop floating out those floors. You're on your knees all the time.
Yep.
So I have some experience on floating out wood floors. And one of the first things you do is that you level the surface in which you are going to lay that floor. And how do you do that? You put down sheets of plywood. So we're in Home Depot, and I'm like, okay, well, how much does the underlayment cost? Oh, we don't do underlayment. They're not carpenters. They're floor layers. I go, well, floor layers put down underlayment so they can float the floor. You're responsible for that. I'm thinking, wait a second. I don't know if it needs it until the rug gets ripped up, which you guys are getting paid for. So I guess what I should do is plan ahead, find out how many sheets of plywood I need. So when we get charged more for it, at least the material is there so they can continue. God, I don't understand workers anymore. I don't know. I would have done it myself, but I can't. See, this is getting old. Is no fun. And what's up with this? We're getting to be at that point where we can be dirty old men. And then somebody like H.W. Bush spoils it for us.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
David Copperfield.
I tell you.
And then blames it on as, I'm just a doddering old guy. I'm like, you're destroying it for us. I've been waiting my whole life to be a dirty old man.
Yep.
And now I can't.
Right.
Jeez.
He screwed it up. He screwed it up for the rest of us.
I guess I'll just have to maintain being a gentleman instead.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
I know. I mean, we're right at that point where we get to like totally take advantage of our, white male entitlement.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And they're taking it away from us. They're saying, everybody should be equal. I go, wait a second. I waited my whole life to be white, entitled, and old.
Right.
Now you're telling me I can't? I have to be a regular citizen like everybody else?
Yeah,
no.
Could have blamed our groping on senility or something, but no, that's taken away from us. So yeah.
Yeah, about 60% of white people think that they're discriminated against. And that's what they mean. I've waited my whole life to be a dirty old man. Now you're taking it away from me. What discrimination? Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, I grew up in a household where there was an age limit to go out and trick or treat. And mostly in the family, that was 12.
Yeah.
So definitely, by 12, you weren't really allowed to go out. And in my family, it was 10. Though there was a little bit of a leeway there, I will say, especially for my younger brother and sisters.
There you go. Yeah. Yep.
But I actually put the effort of Halloween into making like the haunted walkway from the sidewalk, up to the house door. And it got pretty elaborate over the years and stuff. So I have to say, I still have maybe it's wrong to have this knee-jerk reaction, but when I see high schoolers out trick-or-treating, I don't know. I guess they get a trick instead of a treat.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
That's it, yeah.
But, the reason I have this story is because not only it's seasonal quality, but it really puts into perspective the priorities that we prioritize in this country. And this is by the History News Network by William Lambers, an author who partnered with the UN World Food Program on the book Ending World Hunger. And he writes at the HuffPo, The Hill, and other news outlets. And is a member of the Feeding America Blogger Council. Okay, I'm trying to. One nice thing about having a suite of computers is that, where I'm reading the articles is different from where Skype is, which is different from where I'm broadcasting from. So to mute the mic, I actually have to swivel my chair and mute the mic on another machine so that I can cough without, being icky on air. So if you hear me expectoring, I apologize. God. If I could take over-the-counter drugs, I would. like I said, I broke down and took an aspirin. I just can't bring myself to take these over the counter antihistamines and whatnot. Mostly because I like my kidneys. I want to keep my kidneys. They seem to still be working pretty well, and I think the reason is that I have really avoided, not that I never, that I've been totally devoid of taking, Sudafed or whatnot, because I have. When I was in the cooking wars, I would break down quite often and take them because, I had to work, and you don't really want to, be dealing with that while, because you got to wash your hands every time you go to your face, every time you blow your nose, right? But even then, I wouldn't take it all the time. So I sort of feel lucky that I didn't acquire these environmental diseases from taking these heavy metal concoctions.
Right.
So we'll see. Of course, on the other hand, I thought that, because I was fairly hyperactive growing up, and I discerned that sugar was the main culprit. So when my son was born, massive restrictions on sugar and things that would make him hyperactive. You know what happened? He was as hyperactive as I was, even though I restricted all the things that was supposedly would make him hyperactive. So maybe it was congenital. I will say that the sugar will exacerbate it.
It will.
Okay. The National Retail Federation says Halloween spending on candy and costumes will reach $9.1 billion this year. $9.1 billion on candy and costumes.
Yeah, it's a rising holiday, no doubt about it. Yep.
Now, let's put that in perspective. The U.S. Food for Peace program, which fights world hunger, normally gets around $1.5 billion in funding a year. So just on Halloween, we're spending $9.1 billion.
Yeah.
What are we spending for Thanksgiving? Now imagine if just a portion of that $9.1 billion from Halloween went to feed the hungry. And the ghost of Halloween's past tell us it can. Back during the Great Depression, the Chicago Tribune started the Hungry School Children's Fund. Families were struggling for food amid the poverty from the historic economic tragedy. I think that was called the Great Depression.
Yep. I think so, too.
The Tribune's fund provided free lunches to needy children at school. Well, now we know that if you give free lunches to needy children at school, they're just going to eat it. And if there's anything worse to the Republican mindset, it's somebody poor getting free stuff. Because the only people that should be getting free stuff are the good people at the top end of the economic ladder. Don't you know? Okay, in 1950, the fund was an amazing success, providing free school lunches to children in Chicago, and one of the forerunners of our national school lunch program, which the Republicans want to get rid of. In 1950, a Halloween appeal called Trick or Treat for UNICEF was started to benefit the UN Children's Agency. Children would bring around collection boxes for people to place donations instead of candy. And in 1979, UNICEF Trick or Treat was used to feed Cambodians suffering in their famine. Well, Representative Michael Bard, of Maryland helped encourage the Halloween donations. Inspired by a letter he received from a child, the letter said, I've read in Time magazine that people are starving in Cambodia. As my congressman, could you please help them? Please vote to send more money for food. And the child sent a dime enclosed with that letter. So he was behind getting that program up and off the ground. Let's see, a Rhode Island-based company, Adesia, produces the Plumpy Nut, and the charity Action Against Hunger distributes it. They are currently using the Plumpy Nut donations to feed children in South Sudan and Somalia, two countries threatened by famine because of war. Action Against Hunger is also feeding malnourished children their Plumpy Nut in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The needs of these countries remain high, spokesperson Angela Ilamesini said, and we tend to use it up quite quickly. As this year's Halloween arrives, there are 4 nations, Yemen, South Sudan, Somalia, and Niger, threatened with famine. If everyone made fighting hunger a part of their Halloween festivities, think of what a difference it would make. What if trick-or-treaters collected donations from an imaginary guest, one of the world's hungry, and made the donation to the World Food Program, Catholic Relief Services, Save the Children, Mercy Corps, and UNICEF, who are fighting hunger overseas? What if you collected a canned good for your local food bank too? Well, I think this is probably a good idea, and maybe I should have read this earlier so we could put these things into effect. I'm going to find out here in town if there is any, because I got to say, mostly here in town, from my experience the last 2 Halloweens, they don't really go door to door. The families take their kids, to the civic center here.
Yep.
And they go and they go around the businesses, and then they'll be in a big big room, and they'll trick or treat there, kind of thing.
Yep.
So the idea of collecting canned foods or monies then to donate to food relief programs, that sounds like a pretty good idea. And I wonder if there's some sort of program currently here in town that does that. Okay, Sea Rescue. Miguel Algeber, Lauren Wilson, Phil Hazel, and Elizabeth Chuck writing for NBC News. 2 American women lost at sea for 5 long months have been rescued after a broken mast and a disabled engine took them thousands of miles off course. They were trying to get to Tahiti. Wow. And they were 900 miles southeast of the coast of Japan, which I got to tell you is nowhere near Tahiti. Ouch. Jennifer Apple, 48, and friend Tasha Fuava were found by a Taiwanese fishing vessel about 900 miles southeast of Japan. The U.S. Navy said yesterday a Navy ship based out of Sasebo, Japan, rescued them on Wednesday morning, Japan time. On May 23rd, the women set off from Oahu bound for Tahiti, about 26,000 miles away, but problems soon arose. Now, I have sailed from Alameda, California, on an 8-man catamaran, 4 of us, and we were delivering this catamaran. It was big, and we sailed it to Tahiti. And I got to tell you, I was pretty scared. I wasn't the captain by any means. I was mostly ballast and the cook. But by turns, one of the most exhilarating experiences I've ever had, and also one of the most frightening. Took us just about 2 months to get there. And what was it? 18 hours to fly back?
Yeah.
But most of my sailing experience was hugging the coastline of the West Coast, usually no more than 30 miles. And you could still see land.
Right.
And the idea of tacking out into the open ocean and trying to hit a tiny little spot of islands called Hawaii, I mean, you could go right past it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
easily. Yeah. Yep.
And then going to an even smaller dot and an even more expansive part of the Pacific to Tahiti.
Forget about it.
I'm just glad it was somebody else doing,
Yeah.
the navigating on that vessel.
Yeah.
So, but what happens when you lose your engine and you lose your mast? You're drifting. Oh God. So the 2 women were rescued along with their 2 dogs, Zeus and Valentine, who had been aboard with them, while the dogs provided an immense source of comfort during the ordeal. At times, Apple and Fuava feared they would tip off sharks circling around the boat. Yeah, several times they were attacked by tiger sharks. Eee. Meaning that, they were attacking the boat and chewing on it. Yeah, I guess those were hungry sharks. I went downstairs with the boys, and we basically laid huddled on the floor and told them not to bark because the sharks could hear us breathing. They could smell us. On the 99th day, they made distress calls every day, by the way. A Taiwanese fishing vessel found them after 99 days of distress calls, they said. It began towing the sailboat, but by that time, Apple said the ship was in such poor condition, she estimated it wouldn't last another day. So the Taiwanese ship's crew contacted the Coast Guard in Guam, And the USS Ashland sent an amphibious dock landing ship toward the area and reached the sailboat about 10:30 Wednesday Japan time. And let's see, the journey from Hawaii to Tahiti is a fairly common route that normally takes about a month to complete. Before departing, the mariners had loaded their boat full of supplies. They had water purifiers and a year's worth of food, mostly dry goods like oatmeal, pasta, and rice, and used those to survive. Sailing experts in Honolulu had advised that for the trip to Tahiti, they should pack the boat with as much food as possible in case of emergency. So I guess the lesson to be learned is expect the worst and plan for it, because they did. Good for them. All right. Well, links to all of these articles are in the show notes that I put up on the diary on Daily Kos, so check those out. And we'll be back here bright and bushy on Monday. David will be having a recorded live show, so we'll have that set up for you. And, if you want to listen to live talk radio, Netroots radio style, the Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour with Wink and Roaring Girl is on Saturday, 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. And, of course, Jibber Your Jabber with Wink on Sunday, 9 p.m. West, midnight East. So stay tuned and listen to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. Why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Oh, and Wink, I will tell you, we'll listen to Metropolitan Jazz Affairs Forme Rouge before Hartman comes up about 6 minutes after the hour. Oh, and one other thing. I'll see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.